This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
And away we go. The December 9th meeting last night. The City Council started on time, 6:47. Well, I guess 17 minutes late. But the audio was perfect again last night. We're kind of on a roll. Only Councillors Chung, Zizzino, Pascalino, Hamilton, Agarwal, and the mayor were in attendance. The rest were probably staying at home to shovel. But they would have missed the pre-meeting meal. Last night was chicken parmesan and roasted potatoes. Sounds delicious.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Must have been some leftovers with only a few of them there. So away we go. Last night, administration recommended that a revised report that was supposed to come December 16th be moved to March 2nd on what you're asking? The outdoor rinks. Remember this whole fiasco of how many people are going to rinks, which ones should stay and which ones should go. Well, it turns out that the department is a little on the busy side. They're at capacity, and the parks planning section has been tapped for time, so they've asked for a deferral. At the same time, it's smart because this year we've got snow and ice, and now we can figure out the stats a little better. That was approved. That report comes back to council in March. You may also remember that back in June at the Committee of the Whole meeting, Councillor Chung recommended that administration review the feasibility of including pets in cemeteries. No, not in their own plots, in yours. You may remember that conversation. She said, I've heard from a lot of people that want to be buried with their cats. That was an interesting night. Administration was given the task then and asked to report back before now, but deferred last night and asked for a report to come back to council on February 10th, 2024. So that's going to come back to find out whether or not you can be buried with your beloved pet. It still, to me, seems a little weird because there's a timing issue there. But anyway, that was it. The meeting was adjourned at 6:56. It was 9 minutes long.
Wow.
9 minutes for that. On to City Council, but this was the one that we were waiting for after the usual rubber stamping of minutes and bylaws. That only took a minute. Councillor Hamilton had the floor to present his notice of motion to change the parking bylaw. He presented his amendments. There was not much to add, he said. Everything's on the table. There was not much discussion except for a comment by one councillor that needs acknowledgement. Hats off this morning, and I know it's rare, but it is warranted today. But hats off to Councillor Aiello, who last night stuck his neck out to say something that all of the councillors should be acknowledging at this point, but only he was the one that said it out loud. Simply put, he said, this is on us, and the backpedaling is on us too, and he's right. He went on to say that they may have bit off a little more than they can chew by changing too much parking too fast. That could also be true, but good on the councillor for acknowledging it, and again, being the only one to say that. They may be that council made a mistake, but he was the only one. Also in that discussion, both councillors Bentz and Pascalino were cited for being out of order. Not dramatically, but both tried to bring up parking in the marina last night and were called out of order as the marina was not mentioned in Councillor Hamilton's resolution or his amendments. That means it's not being discussed, not being talked about, not being changed. And if they want to make a change to the marina, they'll have to do another notice of motion with 2/3 vote to make it happen. They had to be reminded a couple of times, but their efforts for bringing up marina parking were there. But as far as the notice of motion goes, that wasn't part of the change of plans. Finally, two other important questions brought forward by council that should be noted here. The first, the cost of this change. Keep in mind that the plan for parking was to make parking self-sustaining. That means it pays for itself and you don't have to pay for it other than putting a couple of bucks on your app. But there is, in fact, a cost to the proposed change. And the bigger issue is that we don't know what the amount is. Administration says that weekends and evenings has landed them about $41,000. And in the big picture, that's pretty good change. But that works out to about $200,000 a year. That's going back into the budget, the operating budget, and they need to find a place to put it. So if you're putting $200,000 back in, that means in order to keep your taxes the same, you're taking $200,000 out somewhere. Now, that's just a drop in the bucket, but the point is that you are putting $200,000 back in with this change. What's going to take the hit? We'll have to wait and see. Oh, before I forget, there's another cost, too, that we have to eat in this change. All these fancy signs that are everywhere. They're everywhere, and they all need to be redone now because the times are wrong. Yet another expense for a plan that has now been reversed. The notice of motion passed with only one councillor voting against it. Councillor Greg Johnson said no, which I think is important to note. The rest agreed, and they did also agree with Councillor Hamilton's amendment. So starting today, parking fees apply between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday. And as of today, you're not getting a ticket if you're parked somewhere right now until 9 o'clock. And you can go for dinner and enjoy your expensive meal and not have to pay $3 at a meter outside of your favorite restaurant because parking ends at 6 p.m. You can send your thank you letters to Councillor Hamilton. He did a ton of work on this to make the plan happen and to get the councillors on side. And that was it. 17 minutes of discussion. The meeting was done at 7:15 last night, making it one of the shortest meetings in recent memory, coming in at a whopping 28 minutes.
Wow. Well, I think there are a lot of factors. The weather, maybe some snow blowing had to happen in the evening.
How do you go from a 7-hour meeting 3 weeks ago to a 28-minute meeting today?
Shocked to hear that. Wow.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
All right.
There is one more meeting, much to my surprise, next week. The council gets together again on the 16th for one final meeting before Christmas.
Well, I would anticipate that one being probably, I think, just a nice one all around.
Oh, yeah,
sure.
There'll
Because
be
it's
gifts,
Christmas time. Can't we all just get
Well,
along?
there usually is a group of kids that come in and sing.
That's nice.
That's
All
kind
right.
of a nice thing.
Okay.
But still on the agenda and still for people to talk about and consider is this temporary village thing is still not done.
Yeah.
And administration is doing a pile of work again to find other locations to bring to council. We'll see how that unfolds. And when they do come back in January, it is the height of budget season, and we'll see what happens with the operating budget and find out in the new year exactly how much more we'll be paying.
Also, another reminder, the city's Get Involved section, there is a survey about the temporary village.
Yeah.
That is underway right now, so you can, share your thoughts on that if you want to.
Well,
it's there.
You can
there.
have as many opinions as you'd like
Yeah.
on this, but what is your opinion and what is your solution, which
Yeah.
is the biggest thing?
Yeah.
It again, social media, it is what it is. I've learned the hard way that social media is a pretty nasty place in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But I can say this. One of the things that is the most irritating about these kinds of surveys is that they're filled with complaints, but not a lot of solutions. So unless you have a solution, your solution can't be, it's not our problem, it's the federal and provincial government's problem.
Yeah.
That's not your solution. Council and administration, especially that hardworking team that brought this forward, came with a solution. You didn't accept it. So what's your solution? So it's up to them to figure it out. And the other part that I want to say is this, and this came up on the weekend in a conversation I had on the weekend when somebody had said to me, I believe it was Councillor Gatuga who said a couple of months ago, what about the human rights of the people that have homes that don't want encampments out of there? What about their human rights? Well, it's about everybody's human rights. And at the same time, nobody's human rights are more important than the next person's. That's the point. So, yes, we all have rights, but so do the people that need a place to live.
All right. Well said, John. Thank you. And as always, another reminder, you can get the Council Roundup straight to your phone with a link. If you text the word Council to our T-Bay Talk and text line 807-344-8229, text the word Council, a link will happen, as well as if you go to 999thebay.ca, you'll find the Council Roundup there.
This was almost as long as last night's meeting.
And one more thing,
Yeah.
when you check out the Roundup on the
here
video
we go.
form,
Yeah.
may I say many compliments to you. Nice shirt, John.
Oh, why? Because you're finally matching.
Wow, like we're talking almost identical, although I think yours is more fancy.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Like,
lined. 'Cause
okay,
it's a
good.
little
Mine
chilly.
is, yeah.
But thank you for donning the plaid this morning.
But like I'm talking identical colors the whole bit. We'll leave it at that, all right?
Yeah,
Thanks.
mine is nicer. Now that I look at the camera, it's a little nicer.
Thanks, John. There we have it.